All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Wednesday. I'm not used to saying that on here because we are Concrete Jungle, New York baseball podcast, coming to you live from the third floor of the North Park building in the FingerLakes1.com studios. I am Paul Russo. Across from me, Kyle Evans. Kyle, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm glad to be here. I've wanted to do one of these shows probably a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Just because I miss baseball, not anything about you. I know you've been really busy and stuff, but here we are. We're back, boys. Let's go.
Well, I miss you being next to you, across from you, whenever.
Yeah, and this is a new setup. I like it.
Yeah, so we're on the up and up here. So you mentioned, right, I mean, we have spring training kind of right around the corner-ish. We're within the month window, so that means more regular shows here coming up soon enough. Yeah,
like 3.5 weeks, I think, from pitchers and catchers reporting, and then we got the World Baseball Classic. I'm excited for that, too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. There's separate discussion there, but you talk about soccer and World Cup having a group of death. There's a group of death this year in the World Baseball Classic that I would not want to be a part of.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be fun to watch.
Right.
It feels like it's been forever since we've had the World Baseball Classic.
Nate Sharman, producer, you'll hear his voice, I'm sure, at certain points throughout this. Nate, appreciate you as always behind the scenes. Looking forward to that. So we do have, it's interesting. It's going to be what I call a backloaded episode, our main discussion point, because the Hall of Fame announcing the class of 2023 next week. And although maybe not necessarily exactly Yankee or Met, Syracuse Met or Red Wing related, it's the biggest baseball topic really kind of at this point now going forward, so we decided we should discuss that. We do have some news and notes here to discuss for our usual covered teams, and let's jump right into that. A couple of weeks ago now, actually probably closer to 10 days now, for the New York Yankees, acquisition at the deadline last year, Frankie Montas, report comes out that he's still dealing with some inflammation in his right shoulder, his pitching shoulder, and that he could miss the first month of the season. It's reported that he's actually anywhere in the window between 8 to 10 weeks behind in his training and workout load for the offseason currently. Obviously, didn't go as well as I think many Yankee fans has hoped in the second half of last year. That being said, he was slotted to be the fourth or fifth starter for this Yankee team this year. And look, to get the season going and for what the Yankees had hoped for this year, probably not the news that they wanted.
Yeah, the first thing that jumped out to me right after I heard that is, have the Yankees known about this, that he's been behind? I would assume so. And if so, are they going to be maybe aggressive on the trade market when it comes to pitching? Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people are saying, yeah, they have Domingo Germán and Clark Schmidt.
Right.
But you insert one of them in, okay, and then say like halfway through April, another guy gets hurt. Then you got Domingo Germán and Clark Schmidt in your rotation.
Which has been the Yankees' MO the past couple of years.
That certainly weakens the rotation. So I'm wondering if Brian Cashman is trying to look for another starter via the trade market, or are they actually really confident with Domingo Germán and Clark Schmidt?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, there are options in-house, right, that the Yankees could go with. I don't know at this point who I think you could have in theory be available trade market-wise that wouldn't cost, I think, like a Clark Schmidt.
Yeah, that's the thing, too, why I think the Brian Reynolds trade hasn't went down, because I'm sure like Schmidt and Germán could possibly be part of a big package back to the Pirates. So I think with the Montas news, that kind of holds them off, too, because I think it was also reported the Pirates wanted young arms, if I remember correctly. So
yeah, I mean, they wanted, I mean, it was anywhere from what? I mean, I've heard news that they wanted both Dominguez and Volpe to stuff where it's not maybe quite as high. But yeah, quick little rundown here of starters who are available that maybe it might turn into, say, maybe a long-term type deal potentially, right? Mike Minor's still available. I don't think the Yankees would exactly go after him, but it's an interesting spot because, look, he's up there in age, sure, but he's serviceable. He's not gonna deliberately lose you a game.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, other guys, Michael Wacha, Yankees saw a ton of him last year against Boston. Dylan Bundy, Chris Archer, and then outside of that, it gets sideways kind of quick. So
Yeah.
I would imagine they'd go that route, potentially more on the free agent side of things than maybe trade. That being said, those guys also have double-digit potential hits in the money side of things. So I don't know if that's the right move. I mean, one of the names that jumps out to me in that sense is a guy like Zach Greinke, right? He's available still. He's 39. It'd be like probably a one-year deal, but his market value is $10.5 million still.
Yeah, the biggest thing with him, though, is he going to be comfortable in New York? Is he going to like New York?
Well, he's a strange dude anyway. I don't think it matters.
That's why I don't know. But, yeah, I think it's interesting to see, we're getting very close to spring training. Are the Yankees confident with what they have? Right now it doesn't seem like a big deal, but like I said, if another injury pops up, suddenly they have 3 legit starters and 2 guys that are, they're good, they have potential, but, I don't know if you would trust them for a significant amount of time if those guys missed a lot of time.
Definitely. No, I agree with you 100% there. Let's head over to Queens now for the New York Mets. They themselves have had a fairly active past couple weeks for different reasons. The main one, Carlos Correa, but that will be the last point we really touch on here. Well, I'll start with Pete Alonso. He was the main guy that could have gone to arbitration for the Mets, and they avoided. They agreed to a $14.5 million deal for the 2023 season. They avoid obviously going to arbitration, and to me, it's a bit of a olive branch type scenario. I think a little bit was probably they saw what happened in the Bronx last year with Judge and the Yankees, and they probably don't want to upset what will be their main target to keep in a Mets uniform next offseason.
Yeah, can you believe he only made $7.4 million last year?
Crazy.
And then it basically doubled. So, I think, obviously he had a really good season, but I think, like what you're saying, they wanted to basically please him and give him the money that he probably wanted, and they did just that.
I mean, you mentioned, 7.4, but maybe the crazier part in all of this, is you look through his, career total earnings when you think about it, and he had that nuts rookie year. He was literally on the bottom rung of the rookie pay scale at $555,000 for that. Go to 2020, different story because obviously everything was kind of prorated out for 2020. He made, we'll call it just $250,000 for the sake of time. And then 21, he only made $676,000. Kind of nuts. Think about the production. But to me, like I said, I think this was more they were looking at what happened with the Yankees a little bit. Because, look, to be honest, Dom Smith's completely out of the picture now. There's no immediate true threat to Pete Alonso. It's not like Daniel Vogelbach will become a gold glover in the field and kind of make that portion of Pete Alonso dispensable, right? That's just not going to happen. So I think the only way anything feasibly could happen is maybe if they, Mark Vientos maybe kind of comes up and just is so good defensively that Pete kind of goes full-time DH type thing, but I don't see that happening. So to me, this was a sign of really both. In all honesty, I think this was a big two-way street one, where I feel like Pete probably could have gotten a couple extra $1 million more if he really wanted to, right? Except the Mets were willing to pony up to that number. So Pete's like, let's do this. To me, it's just a good faith act all the way around.
And we know how those arbitration hearings go. You never really want to get to that point.
I mean, like I said, the perfect example of it's the Aaron Judge situation last year.
Yep. And obviously he becomes a free agent in 2024. Mm-hmm. So do you think they get an extension done really soon, or is it going to play out like the Judge thing? And
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it plays out soon. But to me, I think it's more of a we can sit down at the table together. We can probably figure something out.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know maybe if it's necessarily it's right away, but I think it's one that's we can get this done together.
But then at the same point, maybe he does want to test free agency, That's also a thing with people, they might love where they're at or, the team that they're on, but maybe they just want to see what they can get out there.
And I mean, look, I think at the end of the day, we never know what could happen when you're playing. And this might be it for, Pete Alonso. You never know.
Yeah.
You have to go out and get what you can get while you can. I think that's lost sometimes on when players do these types of deals sometimes. So
Exactly.
obviously it's a little bit different with these in-between deals to avoid arbitration and stuff like that. Mets made a bit of a free agent splash this morning of sort. They were in on Adam Duvall, missed out on him. He's going to Boston.
And I believe Andrew McCutchen as well.
Right, McCutchen back to Pittsburgh. And I'm not saying, you got the next best thing, but you signed Tommy Pham. It's a 1-year deal. It's a $6 million deal. It's pending a physical, as everything goes now. But look, Pham has had some really fantastic peaks in his playing career. He's also had some really bad valleys in his playing career. But this is a guy who more than likely will be the third outfielder for the Mets. Odds are starting day left fielder, I would assume, for them. But kind of brings in my thought here of they're probably doing this to compete out with a couple guys, but nonetheless, Pham spent last year with Cincinnati and Boston. The Cincinnati stop did not go as well as it could have. Boston, though, he really turned things around the second half of the year. Nothing nuts or crazy, but enough that it got his average back above the Mendoza line end of the year, batting .237. And for me, it kind of probably goes into a Mets team where an afterthought's probably not the right term, but he's not going to be the main focal point like he was in Cincinnati, for example, where he can kind of go and probably do his thing where it's just be a solid hitter.
Yeah, so you would agree that he's going to start over Mark Canha on opening day? So Canha is the fourth outfielder. You got Nimmo in center,
Right.
Marte in right.
Yeah, more than likely.
Yeah, because I would say Canha kind of struggled at times last year.
Well, I think, too, a lot of it depends on maybe pitching as well in a way, because this also puts Darren Ruff in a bit of a dispensable spot.
Yeah, I think when Canha's in left, Pham will start against probably left-handed pitching, because
Right.
if you look at his stats, he's hit really good left-handed pitching over the last few years.
Yeah, and that's where I was kind of thinking, right, is where does this really fit out? Because the Mets have different DH options available, which is a good thing.
Yeah, because
you can always get the best lineup available to you.
Yeah, and then if they're like I keep mentioning injuries, they have someone to slide right in. They're not looking for help in the minors. They got someone right there ready to come in.
Right.
So,
I guess I'll pose this question to you. I've always been a Tommy Pham guy, in all honesty. Like I said, I think his peaks, when he has his peaks, he is about as good of an offensive outfielder that you can have. But man, when they're low, it gets bad. Like Cincinnati last year was bad.
Yeah. I think it's a good signing only because it's 1 year and it's $6 million.
It's kind of a proven deal, right?
Yeah, and he is 35 years old. He hit 236 last year, but his power seemed to still be there. He drove in 63 RBIs or runs, I should say.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think it's a bad signing at all. And obviously, I probably would have liked McCutchen maybe more.
Right.
But
I think probably everybody would have.
But yeah,
the only person happy in this room probably that McCutchen is back in Pittsburgh is one Nate Sharman.
He's coming home.
but yeah, not a bad signing for the Mets at all.
All right, we'll wrap this up with the Mets here a little bit with Carlos Correa. Saga's finally over. He agrees on a 6-year deal with the Twins. The average annual value is pretty much the same he would have gotten with the Mets or the Giants. I have to include the Giants a little bit here only because they were the initial triggers on this. It's interesting. The Mets and the Giants apparently use the same doctor for the physical. The Twins, I guess, I think they used him as a influence. But it's fascinating, 6-year deal as opposed to, say, 10 or 13, like what he was looking at with the Mets or the Giants, only to get 6. But the average annual value still remains the same.
Yeah. So basically, it goes from a 12-year deal to a 6-year deal, which cuts it right in half. I get where Mets fans are coming from. They were excited at the point where they're like, well, just give them the money, just give them the years. But I guess the physical is really a concern for the Mets and the Giants, and I guess you gotta kind of believe in what the medical staff is saying and the doctors are saying, and imagine in 3 years with the Twins, if all of a sudden his career, he just starts falling apart, and then you're gonna be like super excited as a Met fan that your owner didn't actually pull the trigger and to get the deal done.
Right.
So, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. He's still a really good player. He seems like he's not going downhill at any point soon, but you never know.
Now, to be fair, because there's bound to be somebody out there that's like, the deal was longer than 6. Yeah, they have 4 team options that could extend it out to 10. But that's obviously team. They're not player, they're team options. So it's interesting, and I like I said, I brought this up, a couple different times, whether it was all fair to you guys or on different other platforms here at FL1. Like, he hasn't missed a game. He literally has not missed a game since he injured this ankle in high A back in 2014. But clearly there's something up that triggers are going off for people. And that's fair. I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to act or how not to act. Everybody reacts differently. Everybody's body reacts differently and feels differently. I do find it interesting, like you said, though, 6 years. 6 years puts him at his age 30, we'll call it age 34 season, but middle of age 35 is when it will technically end, the 6 years. To be on a leg that long, if there's issues right now, especially at a key position of shortstop, that's tough.
Yep, I agree. That's why I think, honestly, the Mets made the right choice as bad as, they wanted Correa, but I'm also surprised that they wouldn't have gave him a 6-year deal like the Twins did.
Right.
I didn't really hear much about, how close they were to getting another deal done, but if the Mets would have went 6 years, would he be a Met right now? I think that's something that I don't know if we'll ever find out, but It's interesting.
To wrap it up, where do you think this kind of puts the Mets now long-term shortstop-wise? Because you obviously have Lindor there, but you have a couple prospects still kicking around, right? Murciano comes to mind, obviously, but are you going to put him over Lindor when Lindor looks as though he's righted the ship pretty quick? It's an interesting spot because, look, Correa was not going to play shortstop for the Mets. He was going to be playing third base.
Yep.
Similar to what he does in international competition for Puerto Rico. So, to me anyway, I don't think it necessarily sways anything for the Mets. If anything, it might change up the way they kind of look at second and third base going forward, though.
Yeah, and there's all these rumors saying that, Manny Machado potentially to New York next year, because he's a free agent coming up. I don't know if they would do that, but if they did, I think that right there solves your issue. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting to see how the left side of the infield looks past this upcoming season.
It'll be interesting. I think they have enough young guys around, too. If they want to go that route, they can do it. But the way it sounds, Manny will opt out of that San Diego deal. And if that's the case, I have a hard time believing, unless he really feels comfortable going back to Baltimore. And Baltimore ain't going to pony up, I don't think.
Yeah.
To go back to Baltimore, I think he ends up in Queens.
Yeah. And then obviously Shohei Ohtani is a big thing with the Mets.
You got and that's the thing with the Padres, and that's a separate discussion, but they already sound like they're trying to figure out the assets to get him.
Reports saying that the Mets are going to be all in on Shohei and Machado.
I don't want to be that guy, but if your team name is the Padres, the Dodgers, the Mets, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Braves, the Cubs, the White Sox, the Astros, et cetera, and you aren't trying to figure out a way to go on for Ohtani, I don't think you are going about winning baseball games correctly.
Yeah, we thought the salary is bad right now. They're going to have to pay a lot of money.
He's going to be the first $500 million guy.
Yeah.
It's going to happen. All right. Let's transition over to our minor league teams, our friends along, I-90. Nothing of worthy note for the Mets, the Syracuse Mets, which, hey, sometimes silence is a good thing this time of year. So, but back in December, the Nationals were the only team, one of two teams that didn't announce their minor league awards for the year. Outside of one, Jacob Liu got the National Way Award, which we did announce, but he was formally named it that last week of December when they announced their awards. Pretty much given to the guy who exemplifies, dedication, determination, responsibility, respect, all this type of stuff that embody what being a professional is. And look, he was a guy who rocked it through the system last year, name-wise anyway, and has been justifiably awarded a spot on the 40-man with Washington this year.
Yeah, and if I'm not wrong, didn't he start the year in Double-A?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he just
Actually, I think he technically started at high at Wilmington, actually. I could be wrong, though.
yeah, he moved through the system really quick, and then when he got to AAA, I was like, oh, he'll probably struggle,
Right.
starting off. But no, he literally every night it seemed like he was coming through big for the team and helped the team win, I think, a lot of games and late in the year.
Definitely. He had one rough week in August that kind of tanked what his average probably could have been, but that's baseball. But for what he did for the Red Wings last year, kind of stabilized that infield, in all honesty. Jake Knoll ended up getting hurt, obviously, in July. That benched him the rest of the year. I mean, guys like Lucius Fox ended up getting hurt. But Jake Alou, when he got up there, he was in there every day. And that's key. No other Red Wings got awards except one. Cade Cavalli was named the pitcher of the year in the national system. 6-4, a 3.71 ERA, and 104 strikeouts and 20 starts for the Red Wings last year before getting called up to the Parrot Club late in the year. You have to give a hat tip to Cade. Rough start to the year. I mean, we were openly wondering what was going on with him, and he got the ship righted pretty quick. By the time he got probably about 5 or so starts under his belt, I think a little bit was, I still think it was a little bit of sticker shock not being immediately on Washington's roster, to get going. But, boy, did he get the ship righted right, and he was a big reason why, the Red Wings were, for the better part of the first half of the year, top 3 of the standings, and really, to be fair, kind of still ended up until the final couple weeks of the year.
Yeah, I think his ERA was like at 6 something in April, and then I think between like May and July, he went on this really good stretch where he was helping the team win games. His ERA was low. He was getting those weekly awards, in the International League East. I think he had a really good year, and then he got called up late in the year because he kind of deserved it when he had that stretch. So yeah, I think it was a pretty good year for him, and we'll see how he does this upcoming season, but. At some point, I would think he needs to get promoted and stay there in the big leagues.
I would imagine that's this season. I would hope, knock on wood. And he's also got a ton of control left on him technically, since he has low mileage at the big league level. So, do want to pose this question before we get to the Hall of Fame stuff. Slowly but surely, big league teams have been announcing their minor league staffs for the year. Have not seen anything on the Nationals or the Syracuse Mets. In your mind, would we anticipate seeing Matt LeCroy back with the Red Wings and Kevin Bowles with the S-Mets?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see changes at the manager position, but I think like hitting coaches, pitching coaches, stuff like that will probably change. Yeah. But definitely with Rochester, I think LeCroy comes back, but maybe the Mets do make a change at manager, but I think I don't know. I think their pitching really hurt them all year, and it wasn't really on the manager or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think I started playing Kevin Bowles. It was his first year at AAA level managing. And in his defense, I mean, the offense really came on pretty much post-May.
Yep.
To a point that they were battling for like top of the International League stuff for averages a month and players of months and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and I felt like towards like the middle of the summer they're trying to win games 10-9, 10-7 because their pitching just wasn't there.
Right. All right, so I suppose it's time for what we've all been waiting for in a way here. The 2023 Baseball Hall of Fame is set to announce the class of this year next week. A lot of interesting names on the list. A lot of, I wouldn't say controversy per se, but it's certainly kind of stuff that a lot of people are kind of wondering about. Okay, who deserves to be where and everything else. So, quick look at the ballot as a whole. Only one player is eligible to outright fall off this year, and that's Jeff Kent. He's in his 10th year of eligibility. He's the only one that could fall off just based on duration on the ballot. Your first-year players, Carlos Beltran, John Lackey, Jared Weaver, Jacoby Ellsbury, Matt Cain, Johnny Peralta, Jason Worth, J.J. Hardy, Mike Napoli, Bronson Arroyo, R.A. Dickey, Francisco Rodriguez, Andre Ethier, and Houston Street. Those are your first-year guys, and obviously we'll touch on some of the returning guys to the ballots year in and year out here. Of the returning guys last year, nobody broke the 70% threshold. And in order to stay on the ballot, you must eclipse 5% of the ballot. Okay, so how do we want to do this fully here? Do we want to rattle off who we would fictitiously vote for here first and then dive in? I think that'd probably be the best way to do it.
Yeah,
All right.
would say.
So I guess I'll go first with my ballot. And this is in, I guess, technically alphabetical order. I didn't really realize it. So first for me is Mark Burley. You have the option of, if you're a voter, you can vote up to 10 players. Initially, when I was looking at the ballot, I had a tough time kind of finding 10 guys. I ended up getting 10 guys that once I looked, I thought Hall of Fame worthy. Mark Burley leads that off, obviously in ABC order, had a 214 and 160 record. Obviously, maybe that doesn't necessarily fly off the books of you, but 5-time All-Star, multiple Gold Gloves, World Series winner, 2 no-hitters, including the 18th perfect game in MLB history. I have Todd Helton on there. And if you want to complain about Coors, it's fine, but his comps equate out to Jeff Bagwell, Edgar Martinez, Vladimir Guerrero, Larry Walker, Jim Rice, and Fred McGriff, all of which are going to be in the Hall of Fame together here in this year. I have Andrew Jones, who 434 home runs, 5-time All-Star, but most known for his defense, 10-time Gold Glover. His WAR, he has a 62.7 WAR, but a lot of that's based off of defense metrics. This is where we probably start getting into some controversy with me. I have Jeff Kent, arguably one of the best offensive second basemen of all time, 2000 NL MVP, a 5-time All-Star. I have Andy Pettitte. To me, I might be seen in the Hall of Fame. I might be seen in the Hall of Fame. Pettitte's probably a better pitcher than him. 256 and 153, a 3-time All-Star, 5-time World Series champion, 2001 ALCS MVP, and who many consider this to be the best postseason pitcher of all time in the modern era. I have Manny Ramirez, who could just flat out hit, 69.3 WAR, a 312 career average, 12-time All-Star, 2-time World Series MVP champion, and the 2002 AL batting champion, World Series MVP in 04 as well. Alex Rodriguez. Hard to go against the numbers, though. 117.6 WAR, over 3,000 hits at 31.15, 696 home runs, a 3-time MVP, a 14-time All-Star, a 1-time World Series champion in 2009, 2 Gold Gloves, 10 Silver Sluggers, a 3-time Player of the Year, and the 1996 AL batting champion at 20 years old, batting .358. I have Scott Rowland, who this is probably more of a sabermetric pick, as people would call it. But look, he has one of the higher WARs of the people on the ballot at 70.1. He was the NL Rookie of the Year in 97, a 7-time All-Star, World Series champion, 8-time Gold Glover as well. So he could do it with the bat and in the field. Gary Sheffield I have as well. Man could just flat out hit. I don't know what else to kind of tell people with that. 500 career home runs, a 9-time All-Star, World Series champion, and also the 92 NL batting champion with a 333 average. And then my last guy, number 10, is Billy Wagner. Now, this one's interesting. Billy's gained some steam over the years. 422 saves, a 2.31 career ERA. 7-time All-Star, was 1999 Relief Man of the Year. And his peak years are equatable to Trevor Hoffman's. So that would be my ballot.
Yeah, I think ours are pretty similar for the most part. I think one of the differences is Carlos Beltran.
Yeah.
The reason for that is he's one of 8 players in MLB history with 300 home runs, with over 300 home runs and over 300 stolen bases. And then of his 435 career home runs, that's 4th all-time among switch hitters.
Yeah.
And, he's a postseason legend. I think his career postseason average is 307. And if Andre Dawson is a Hall of Famer, I would say that he is.
Agreed.
And then Jimmy Rollins, I would say that he's one of the greatest shortstops in the last 25 years. Switch hitter. He was really good at stealing bases. He was a power hitter. He ranked top 5 among shortstops in extra base hits in MLB history. I just think those are some good reasons why he should get the consideration for the ballot. And I think all the rest we do agree on. I had obviously like A-Rod, Pettitte, Sheffield, Helton, Jones, Kent, Rowland.
It's tough for me because I've kind of waned on guys like I had Omar Vizquel for the longest time on there, and I think for me, a lot of it was defensive based, And I know it's tough because, I mean, I have Andrew Jones in there, but he also had offensive numbers to back it up. You know, two of the names that kind of stick out to me, Beltran will get more than 5%, I would imagine, to stay on the ballot.
Yeah.
I think it's tough for me because to me, he would make my ballot, but he's kind of down at the bottom below the 10. Torrey Hunter for me also is on there.
You think he'll stay on the ballot though, Hunter?
Hunter's a tough spot. He got 5.3 last year to stay on his third year, so I would imagine it might carry over this year. The other guy, and this is the intriguing one to me, that we didn't get any discussion on, Bobby Abreu. Now this will be his 5th year on the ballot. He got 8.6% of the vote last year. He has a 60.2 WAR, which is, I wouldn't say middle of the road for the guys he's had, but it kind of sits above a couple other guys, you know, that made my ballot anyway. I mean, Mark Burley has a 59.1 WAR, so it kind of tells you, I guess, that in that way. But look, he was 30 hits shy of 2,500, a career 291 hitter, but at his peak was really, really good.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would think that he would stay on the ballot, but who knows? I mean, sometimes crazy things happen with this voting stuff, so we'll have to see.
I suppose to wrap up the discussion, we can do it this way, and this is where I know Nate contests very hard, and I do agree with him in this sense. The Hall of Fame and the voters really have come under scrutiny now for a number of years, and they will get it this year because I'm going to wrap it up also with another question. Is it the Hall of Fame or Hall of who we like and a Hall of good character? Because, look, I go through this every year with people. The Hall of Fame currently has people who are racist, bigots, sexual deviants, drug users, you name it. It's in the Hall of Fame. Okay? And this is where I know Nate will chime in. I still very much so disagree that Barry Bonds is not in. I very much so disagree that Roger Clemens is not in, among other people. I mean, I've been pounding the drum on guys, and again, the fact of the matter is it's a shame that Dave Parker more than likely will be dead by the time he gets in. Dick Allen is dead, and he's not in and should be in. We're lucky that Fred McGriff's getting in via the Veterans Committee, and he's still with us. You know, to tie it up with this, do we have anybody actually get into the Hall of Fame this year from the ballot? I think this is a year that we could just see Fred McGriff get in on the Veterans Committee, and that's it. It shouldn't be that way. I mean, Alex Rodriguez should be in, no problem. Manny Ramirez should be in, no problem. At minimum, those two should be in, no problem. It's just that we have the whole entire steroid debate come up, and to me, it's part of the game, and it's whatever. And it's tough because, look, we bring up a guy like Pete Rose, and Kyle, I'm assuming you've been to the Hall of Fame, right? You have not?
I have not.
Wow, we need to change that. Nate, have you been to the Baseball Hall of Fame?
I have not.
Okay. So, in the Baseball Hall of Fame, they have literal exhibits for Pete Rose. They have Pete Rose jersey, bat, helmet, hat, you name it. It's in an exhibit in case it says Pete Rose. Okay? They have Barry Bonds jersey, bat, helmet, elbow guard in an exhibit. They have same thing with Clemens. I could go on, right? But the fact of the matter is, with that in there and with them not having a plaque like they should be in the Hall, the Hall of Fame to me has turned slowly and more surely into just a glorified museum. So, I guess the question I pose to you, Kyle, and Nate, if you want to chime in, you certainly can, because I agree with some of the stuff you said off air. Do we have anybody get in off this ballot, one? And two, is it slowly just becoming less and less of a recognizable feat to be in the Hall of Fame as a player?
Yeah, I don't know if we get anyone off the ballot, but I agree. There's people in the Hall of Fame that shouldn't be in there, and then there's people that deserve to be in there. I do believe Barry Bonds should be a Hall of Famer. I think you would agree too.
100%.
And Nate agrees. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it. But Nate, if you want to add something, you can.
Yeah, it just doesn't make much sense to me why he's not in the Hall of Fame. I mean, we've gone through and we've everyone's accepted, and Barry Bonds even has accepted that, back in those days, people were cheating, and that's okay at this point. It's something that's in the past at this point. How can you just erase history? I know it's parallels to other things besides baseball, but it's something that happened, and it's something I think that should be recognized, because I think what's our status on if Barry Bonds didn't cheat? If he was placed in the MLB today, where do you think he would reside? I think that's the big question. Now that I think about it,
I know, Kyle, you have a point here. I'll answer it quickly with this. I've always remarked back to, you take Barry Bonds at the end of 1997, you take Roger Clemens at the end of 1997. That time is when it's greatly recognized that they were probably for sure at least starting to take steroids at that point, if not already had. But hypothetically, they both get hit by a bus and die. They're in the Hall of Fame, and it's not even a discussion. It's a full stop. They're in the Hall of Fame. So I'm with you. I can't erase history. The fact of the matter is, it was part of the game. Was it right? No, but it was part of the game. And
it's not like he was the only one doing it. No. I think that's where my argument lies.
No. And look, we have guys in there that were known drug users, greenies as they were called, from the 50s through the 70s. You got guys in there who, trust me, were known users of that. And it's a stimulant, maybe not like steroids, but it's a stimulant. It gets you more. It's a hyper-focus thing. It gets you trained to be more on the ball. And if you don't think that that's a performance enhancer, then steroids shouldn't be a performance enhancer either in your mind.
So you put A-Rod on your ballot, obviously, as we kind of already talked about, but do you think he actually makes it? I don't.
No, that's why I posed the question. Do you think anybody from this ballot this year gets in at this point? Well, at least in 2023 gets in.
Yeah, I don't know if A-Rod ever will get in. I don't think he will.
No,
he's hated by so many people. If Bonds didn't get in, he's not getting in.
But a lot of people hate Jack Morris, and he's in there. I don't know. It's tough, and I to a point that Nate, you set off air, probably will be a case again where a lot of these people are dead by the time they actually get that plaque where they deserve to be in Cooperstown.
Which is ridiculous, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. It's a lot of old dudes who, I don't know what standards they're upholding at this point, but hey, it's whatever.
Yep.
All right, so now we'll wrap up Concrete Jungle for today. So obviously, probably nothing the next couple of weeks here, but as we get closer to spring training, we'll definitely be coming back with more stuff. As stuff slowly gets announced, and we have everything. Won't be going 2 a week right away, but certainly 1 a week as spring gets going. Anything before we head out here, Kyle? I know you've been busy. We gotta give a tip of the hat to you for the high school content, but stuff never stops. I mean, you got the Tommy Pham stuff out there pretty quick.
Yeah, obviously, it seems like there's always news in the sports world, no matter if it's signings or injuries. But yeah, I'm excited for baseball. I love hockey and football, but I think baseball is just summer baseball at the stadium is the best in my opinion.
Hell yeah, supreme. Nate, appreciate it as always behind the scenes. What you got before we head out?
Go Sabres.
All right, fair
How's
enough.
that work?
I'll allow it.
Yikes.
I'll allow it. They might be playing at what is it now? Coca-Cola Park in Buffalo. So.
Yeah.
Wait, did they really change that name?
Yeah, it's not, actually no. Is it Saline?
Saline Field.
I don't know. What's the naming rights?
Okay, now we have to do this quick before we go.
I'm pretty sure it's still Saline Field.
Good news.
It's got to still be Saline Field.
Saline Field. I thought it was Coke Park. I thought it reverted back for some reason, but that's why I'm here. All right, appreciate you, Nate Sharman, as always, behind the scenes. Kyle Evans, appreciate you as always. For everybody else, Spring Week's One, I'm Paul Russo. Fantastic week, everybody. Like, share, subscribe. Catch up anytime, YouTube, Spotify, Anchor. We'll talk to everybody later on down the road.